Are you sure you're in the right career? It sounds like maybe you should have been a cop or something, given how often you find yourself in these scenarios.
Me and a sheriff cleared the house one time, guns drawn. I watched a drug deal go down. Patrick, as soon as I got to the window, he said, I literally seen an arm come out. They shot like 5 rounds into the door across the road and then just spun out. No movement whatsoever, never said anything to me. And it was in that moment that I realized either they were dead or asleep. So now the good side of that though is we bought the house.
Glad to know that you kind of have some normal stuff going on in addition to all of your Walker Texas Ranger crap that's happened in your career. Welcome to No Funding Way, where every clean closing has a dirty story. Today I'm joined by Patrick Smith, a local agent here in Tennessee. Patrick, just take a minute, tell us, how did you wind up here?
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me. Well, I've been in real estate a little over 10 years now, nominated Rookie of the Year my first year in. And from there, spent most of my first half the time with a brokerage, then transitioned out, built a team, and here we are.
Sweet. So, with that being said, before we get to the crimes, quick version, like, why did you decide to become a real estate agent?
The real reason was to simply make more money. I left a job that wasn't paying what I wanted. My wife wanted to stay home, be a stay-at-home mom, all that, and so that's the real reason I got into real estate.
Got it. That makes perfect sense. At the end of the day, money is what's going to make the missus a little happier and the belly a little fatter.
That's
Um,
true.
so, all right, real fast. What do you feel like is the best part of the job, and what part makes you want to hang up your license and go jump off a bridge?
You know, you're going to hear this a lot. I mean, I really do enjoy talking with all the different people in all the different circumstances. I mean, there's certain situations when you're dealing with clients that really make it rewarding. I mean, I was talking to a client the other day, and they literally told me, they said, "We feel like we've talked to you every day for the last year, and now it feels awkward not." And so for me, that's probably the most rewarding part. But at the same time, the most challenging part is the clients, dealing with all the off the wall situations you find yourself in, and um, personalities. It's just basically every transaction you're dealing with a different person, different personality behind it, different finances, different situations. So it obviously makes it a little challenging at times.
Yeah, totally. I mean, do you feel like on an average day you're more salesperson or hostage negotiator?
Uh, Probably a hostage negotiator. Because I mean, especially in the last 2 years, I mean, the industry's changed a little bit for from what it was during the COVID timeframe. So seems like every deal right now is a big deal, whether it's dealing with repairs being negotiated, whether it's negotiating at price points, trying to find the right home. But yeah, most everything feels like it's a more of a hostage situation in a sense.
Yeah, I've been feeling that pain on the lending front too. I mean, obviously, we all know why we're here today. We want to talk about the train wrecks. We want to talk about the stuff that did not go well. So, just set the scene of the worst day of your real estate career so far.
Well, we can go on and on about those. Probably the worst. Well, I'm not going to say it was the worst day per se, but it was the most. It was the one that caught me off guard the most. So it was on a holiday. We show up. Um, I'm in a sketchy part of town, and I didn't have a good feeling when I pulled up. I knew I was going to a vacant house. Everything around me looked pretty sketchy, so I decided to stay in the truck until my client got there. And about the time that about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes before he got there, I saw a vehicle pull in on a one-way street. They nosed up to me. They didn't like that I was there, obviously, because I was out of place driving a big 350 dolly. And I watched a drug deal go down. And so that was the start of that day. And then finally the client shows up, and we go to the door, and I still have a very uneasy feeling. And when I got to the door, it wasn't a normal lockbox this time. We had a lockbox that we had to get the key out of, but then we had to unlock one lock, and then there was a master lock on the outside. And again, this is a vacant, abandoned house in a sketchy part of town. And as I'm opening the door, I could feel like the bottom of the door was grabbing on what I assumed was the carpet. And so I kind of pushed a little bit harder. And about the time that I got it cracked open, about 45 degrees or whatever, I see a body just just laying right inside the door in a fetal position on the right side. I couldn't tell if it was a male or a female. It just was something that appeared like a body laying there. And as I start pushing a little
Like
hard.
like a mannequin or a person? Like was it a real
Well,
body?
at this point, I wasn't sure. So as I start pushing the door back, I finally get to where I can see a little further, and I see what appear to be large male, bare feet, laying in a fetal position on the right side, and they didn't have socks on. And so at this point, I realize it's a human body, literally laying like 3 to 4 foot inside the door, and it wasn't moving, no movement whatsoever. Never said anything to me, and it was in that moment that I realized either they were dead or asleep. And so I politely announced who I was. I said, this is Patrick. I'm a real estate agent. I'm going to lock you back in. And so I cautiously shut the door back, put the master lock back on, and head to the truck and called the agent.
All right. So let's be this straight. You're just sitting there trying to view a house with a client. Did the client see this
Oh, yeah.
person,
Oh,
body,
yeah.
whatever, laying there?
Yeah.
What did they do whenever they saw it?
Well, we just kind of looked at each other, and I mean, I looked over at him and was like, that's a body. And he's like, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, look, there's feet right here." I mean, we stood at the door and kind of talked for a few minutes, dialogue-ish, and we just kind of shut the door. And so the best part about this is whenever I called the agent, I called and said, "Hey," I said, "we got a problem." I said, "Is this house vacant or is it occupied?" And literally, without missing a beat, he responds. He goes, "Patrick, have you seen the house? Nobody can live in that." And I said, "Well, we've got a bigger problem." I said, well, "There's a body laying in here." He said, "A body?" I said, "Yeah, there's a body laying right inside the door." And without missing a beat, he responds. He goes, "Well, just go on in, step over him, and look at the house." He says, "It's really great investment property." And I said, "Are you hearing me? There's a body laying inside the door, like they're not moving." and and so we went back and forth for a little bit. He's like, "Well, just walk on around it and go on in." I said, "I'm not going in the house. There's a body laying in here, and I don't want to be the one to call that in." I said, "You probably need to call the cops on this one." And anyway, he called the cops, and they came out, and I left. I got out of there after that point because they weren't moving, and the cops weren't in any major hurry. But yeah, called the cops and came out there and ran the person out. Basically, it was a drunk squatter who had broke in the back of the house at some point overnight and crashed out.
Dang. So, I mean, what you're saying is that there's no day in training that you went through your licensing course where they're like, hey, here's the step-by-step process of what to do when there's a body involved.
No, I was not prepared for that, and honestly, I wasn't even expecting that. I've been in some different situations over my career, but that one threw me off guard. I mean, usually if it's a
Yeah.
squatter,
I
they
mean,
announce and stuff, but this was they were passed out.
yeah, for sure. I mean, what percentage of you thought that this was a dead person laying there in the floor?
Oh, every bit of me in the beginning. They did not move. Uh, I mean, all I remember is opening the door and it's like that's a body, and there was that. So now the good the good side of that though is we bought the house. We did go back a few days later and the investor bought it, flipped it, and everything went great. But yeah, it was that day threw me off for sure.
Well, I would say so. Thankfully, as a lender, I don't have to deal with dead people in the office most days. I think. So, I mean, we may feel like we're dead some days in lending, but at least it's not physically a body laying there.
Oh yeah.
What was going through your head whenever you walk through there and you see homie laid out there in the floor, and then you got this other agent just telling you, I'll just step over, not a big deal. Another day in the office, like that's
Well,
crazy.
that part was funny because it's almost like he expected it. And I mean, he never even hinted that he even heard me say anything about a body laying there. He was all about trying to get that, trying to get us in to view that property and stuff. And even when we went back for the second showing, like 3 or 4 days later, because I mean, we made sure the cops had cleared it and everything. But even when we went back, I was uneasy walking through the house. I guess I had PTSD. I don't know, but yeah, even going back that next day or the next couple days to the door. I mean, I had the same feelings. It was not good.
Yeah, I can imagine. And for the uninitiated out there, just normal people that aren't real estate agents. What is a lockbox for? Why is that there?
Well, that's what keeps the key secured. So that, I mean, they make a ton of different ones, but this is one of the cheaper ones that you'd find at Home Depot. It's just a little code that goes on the door, and they release the code to us so we can get in there and open it up, and it releases the key for us to get access to the property. Um, and that was the thing. Whenever I first got to the property, I knew that there was a lockbox on the door, so I had the key locked in, and then, like I said, there was a master lock on the outside, so the master lock had not been touched. So the next question was where did they come in at? Because we walked around the outside and couldn't really find anything as far as any entrance areas, but they'd broken in the back door and come all the way through the back, camped out at the front in the living room, and just happened to be about 3 foot inside the door.
Yeah. So they basically, in their drunken or drug-induced stupor, allegedly, were able to break into this house without actually unlocking it somehow.
They did. They did. They came through the backside. There was a secondary door that went out into like to the backyard area, and the yard was completely fenced in, all that, and so it was it, it was interesting. And even once the house got flipped and we went back and held open houses and sold and all that, like that was still in the back of my mind the whole time, thinking, crap, somebody's gonna come in here on me. So
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and add that to the list of reasons I'm glad I'm a lender and not a real estate agent.
yeah,
That's
yeah, that
it's a
stuff's not in the
miserable
manual.
day on the job.
They don't prepare you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, moving on just a little bit here, that's a terrible day, but like, is that just a commonality with your market, or what sorts of other things have you seen around?
No, it's not common. I mean, yeah, now I've not been in this situation personally, but we've had houses where agents in the brokerage have gone out and there's been squatters, that kind of stuff. Which again, those are easier to handle than just a body, because I mean, if it's a live squatter, they're going to let you know that they're in there. They're going to, it's usually in some sort of confrontation, and we're not looking for that. But yeah, it's not necessarily common. But that day, I just had a bad
Gotcha.
feeling when I pulled up. Something was off.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can imagine looking at the crack house or whatever is probably comforting to start with. I'm sure there was a Rottweiler next door that was trying to get off his chain and
It was a pit bull.
all that going on too. Oh, Pitbull. Okay,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
So, if you had to give anybody a piece of advice as far as finding themselves in that situation or how to prevent being in that situation, other than shop in a better neighborhood, like what would you say is the best thing that you could do to prevent this from being your reality in the future?
you know, Really just be aware. I mean, I'm always. I mean, the thing about being on the real estate side is we meet strangers. We do everything that they teach you not to do in school. Don't talk to strangers, all this stuff. Well, we talk to strangers in strange places on a daily basis. We meet people we've never met. Obviously, there's screening tactics and stuff that you can do, and run background checks, whatever. But that kind of situation there, the main thing is just be aware of your surroundings. I'm typically always very aware of what's going on around me. And there's times. I mean, I always try when I get to a property, get in, get it opened up for the client, get it ready, that kind of stuff. That way, it helps speed the process up for them. It helps the flow better. But this particular day, I just had a bad feeling, and so I decided to sit in the truck until I had backup, and thankfully I did, because if I'd been by myself, it'd scare me to death.
Yeah, yeah, and I imagine too. This is me talking. I'm not a real estate agent, so disclaimer there. But probably stay strapped or get clapped. Might be a
Oh
good
yeah,
good
yeah,
motto to
yeah.
live by.
I'm always, and even in those situations, you want to get out of it. I mean, you've got fight or flight,
Yeah,
and you want to fly if you can. There's a time and place for everything, but yes, I locked him back in and got out.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you told me the other day. I mean, for those that don't know, obviously we talk somewhat regularly, but you told me the other day that there was a time that you also got hemmed up in a house, kind of along those same lines, but by people that were presumably more alive than this fellow was.
They were definitely more alive. I showed a house in a rural county, and I was showing it for another agent. It wasn't even my client, and it was an elderly lady, a foreclosure property, and No lights were on. All power utilities were shut off. Everything. So she and I go through and we're looking, and we've finished up the showing, and we're standing in the living room. And she keeps looking past me over my shoulder out the window. She said, "I have a bad feeling." Well, I just kind of look over my shoulder and look out the window, and there's a truck that's pulled in. Well, in the truck, they parked parallel to the driveway, or I'm sorry, perpendicular to the driveway, and it's two guys, and they're just sitting there staring into the house. Well, one guy gets out and he starts coming towards the front door, and I told her, "So I'm gonna step outside real quick, see if I can intervene here." Well, anyway, he comes up there and he's like, "I really want to look at the house." Well, got rid of him. I went back and forth for a little bit and gave him my card and everything. Told him it was a private showing only, all that. Well, they left. And she and I stood in there, talked a little bit longer, and then we looked at a few more things in the house. And as we were wrapping up, walking back outside, those guys had come back. They'd gone up, turned around, come back facing the opposite direction. And at this point, another real estate vehicle is in the car or in the driveway, and it was a female. Well, this female starts talking to these guys, and they're in the truck, and she's standing outside. And so I told my lady, I said, "Let's get you out of here real quick, and I'll see what's going on." So she gets in her car, and leaves, and this little girl, I walked over to her and said, "What are you doing? Are you showing?" She says, "Well, I'm just an assistant. I can't even show, but they really want to see this house." And so it was in that moment I realized I couldn't leave her there by herself. And so anyway, she had to take a few pictures of what she had to do. And the one guy, he speaks up. He's like, "Yeah, I'm the one that wants to see it." And so I take him in, knowing that she's coming in with me. And she literally took a picture of the front doorknob and left. And
Why?
just, I'll be honest, I don't know. I don't know if she was scared and she knew it was uneasy and she was trying to get out. I don't know. But she literally, we walk in, me and the guy walk in. She comes in, takes a picture of the doorknob for whatever reason, and then leaves. So at this point, me and the guy, we're in the kitchen. So like the kitchen cabinets are behind me, the back doors over here to my left, which did not open, and it was, I don't know, it wouldn't open. I tried opening it whenever I was doing my actual showing, it wouldn't budge. And so anyway, about the time that she gets out of the driveway, I hear the front door slam. Well, in comes the other guy, and at this point, they've got me cornered. And I mean, I'm sitting here patting my pockets. I had nothing. I mean, I had a BlackBerry cell phone in my pocket at that time and my truck key. So
Wait,
anyway,
hold up, hold up, hold up. BlackBerry, like
that's how
this was a
long ago
while
this has
ago,
been.
right?
Yeah, that's why a lot of the gray's coming in now.
Okay,
But yeah,
gotcha. Yeah.
we were standing there, and I really could not get a good read on them. All I knew is they had me cornered, and I had a door that wouldn't open. I had a sink and countertops behind me, and I had two guys here. One of them was shorter than I was, but outweighed me by quite a bit, and the other one, he was every bit of 6'3". I mean, he was just a big man. And I just remember standing there, patting my pockets, thinking, "I don't even have anything to give you." And they kept looking back and forth at each other. And I just remember standing there. I finally looked over and saw my truck through the window, through the bedroom. And for those who don't know, I was a baseball player, so I'm used to diving and all that fun stuff. But at this point, I've ruptured a disc, my legs messed up. I can't run worth a lick. Haven't dove in years. And I just remember thinking, one of these is going to hurt because there's no way I could take two men that size. And then I knew my gun was in my door in my truck. And so I just had to make the first. And I've watched enough videos or movies rather. We've all seen people dive through windows. So I thought I can do this. And
All right. So your plan here was basically to be
uh,
Bo and Luke Duke,
I was
jump through the
diving through
window,
head
run
first with
away.
a tuck and roll at the end. Yeah, that's what I had in my mind.
Friggin' action star over here.
But then I realized at that moment I don't play baseball anymore and I negotiate for a living. So I started talking to them and picked up on some things, and um, their body language was all off. It was like they kept looking back and forth at each other and couldn't make up their mind what they wanted to do. And it's like they were waiting on one or the other to make a move of some sort. And finally, after standing there just kind of BSing with them for a little bit, I would talk to the guy over here, and as I would talk to him, I would just nonchalantly walk into the guy's space over here. Well, they didn't like that. I got too close for them, and I would just ping pong back and forth. And I finally got them positioned with their backs to the wall, and mine was to the front door at this point. And oddly enough, I got a phone call on my watch really quick. And I was like, "Oh, I got to take this one," and well, I left. So, but yeah, that one was uneasy.
So,
I wasn't sure what they were going to do at that point.
yeah, you about became the dead man in that story potentially.
I did, yeah.
What I mean, did you ever figure out what exactly these gentlemen had for you, or why they wanted to be there for the showing, or any
Have
of
no
that?
idea. Have no idea. Don't know who they are. Never heard from them again. But I feel like there were some bad intentions there. I just never. I didn't stick around long enough to figure out what they were.
Well, that's fair. I always
Once again,
tell my son that you don't
fight
go
or flight.
seeking out problems.
That's right. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you want to get out of the situation if at all possible, and I found an open door.
yeah. So I feel like the theme of today's conversation really is just situational awareness. I mean,
Oh,
of
absolutely.
course, you were back in the BlackBerry days back then, so it wasn't like TikTok was a problem. But you know, would you say that? Would you say that most agents, in your experience, and most people have good situational awareness, or what do you feel like is usually the the situation with that?
You know, I would love to say yes, but I think human nature as a whole, I think people are so stuck in their own bubbles that they are oblivious to things that are going on around. I mean, my wife is the world's worst. I mean, you can send her to a store and she doesn't have a clue that anything's going on around her. Whereas I'm over here scanning everybody and every situation around me because I mean, once again, you've got to get away from those types of situations if possible, if things arise. And but no, I think as a whole, agents, I don't know that they are fully aware half the time. Because ultimately, when you're in that situation, I mean, a lot of times it's a one track mind. You're trying to think about the house, trying to make sure it accommodates the client, trying to think of what they're going to say, the next questions, et cetera. And I think a lot of times it's very easy to get stuck. And, we put our blinders on thinking, oh, we got to make a sell. And I think a lot of times you end up missing a lot of that stuff around you. There was
Yeah,
another,
yeah, for sure.
and, I went to a house one time, and I won't go into full detail on this one, but I was a couple minutes late. I went to an area that I didn't realize where I was going. I'll put it this way. And it was a lead that came through and was like, hey, we want to see a house. At that point, I just ran, got there. And when me and the guy went in, it looks like we're raiding the place. Um, Literally, I mean, the whole neighborhood came out. He's in full military uniform. I'm in dress clothes, tie. And I mean, it looks like we're coming in undercover and raiding the place. And the whole neighborhood comes out. And he looks at me, he goes, I think we're about to get shot. And he was looking past, behind me. And I said, are you serious? He goes, I think we're about to get shot. And I said, well, you're closer to my truck. I said, you got 9 rounds. I'll play dead. And, but yeah, I mean, those situations, I mean, going into it, I kind of suspected certain things, but then the whole neighborhood came out. They started lighting fires around us. And it was, I didn't hear back from that guy. I'll put it that way. He
Yeah,
never balled
I
out there.
probably wouldn't. Yeah, I probably wouldn't either if you've got the locals starting bonfires to roast you over after they get done.
Yeah, it was a fun day.
Yeah. So, in light of these experiences, have you changed anything about your process to mitigate that as much as possible?
I have. At that point when all that stuff was going on, I was fairly new. So I have learned to screen people a little bit better. I ask a lot more direct questions. I personally will not step out to show property unless my clients are either paying cash or have already been pre-approved and underwritten. Um, I now have systems where I can run complete background checks on people. So yeah, definitely. And here's the thing: all these situations were not my clients. They were not people. They were not the people that I had to be aware of. It was the
The
locations.
wild card.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
those things. And unfortunately, you can't plan for those other than just being aware of your surroundings and just playing it safe.
Yeah. So, I guess if you're a normie watching this and not another real estate agent or something, you know, look up some crime data before you decide that you want to go look at a house at a specific spot, because there's probably a reason that it's way cheaper than it should be. And those reasons may be correlated to bullet holes or something
Well,
similar
and
going on, or the meth lab out back.
well, and legally, I mean, we can't really tell you it's a great neighborhood. I mean, we can't tell you anything about school zones and all that. I mean, as a client or a consumer, that's their responsibility technically, and that's one of the questions we get asked is, you know, Is it a good school district? Is it a good neighborhood? Well, we legally can't answer that for you. So, that's definitely a due diligence part on the client's end. But yeah, definitely do your homework. Do a drive by. I always say, if you're driving through a neighborhood that you think may check out, saw the pretty picture on Zillow or whatever, and you're like, oh, this is it. Do a drive by of the neighborhood. If you find yourself hitting the gas pedal a little bit harder than what you were coming in, not your neighborhood. Don't schedule that showing. Um, so I mean, there's a process
We should
there.
probably clarify too that the definition of drive-by here is
Oh yeah, yeah. Just
calmer
just drive through.
than yeah, drive through. Given the context, we might should clarify that it's drive through and not drive by, because it
Well,
sounds like drive bys may be a
we had
part
that
of
one happen
life
one
in
time.
some of these areas.
Yeah, one of my agents had one happen. He was setting up a showing, and he calls me. I was out of town. He called. He goes, hypothetically, if there's a drive-by shooting, do I have to disclose this? And I know it's never good with him. And I said, what's going on? He said, I'm in here getting the house opened up, and this is in a bigger city. But he said, I'm in here getting the house set up, and I hear a truck engine revving. And I went to the window and looked out, and he said, Patrick, as soon as I got to the window, he said, I literally see an arm come out. They shot like 5 rounds into the door across the road, and then just spun out and left. So it happens.
Yeah, was it at the house he was at, or like a neighbor trap house or something
He
like that, or
he
what was
was
the scenario?
showing the property across the street, which actually was a
Okay.
nice house. I mean, it was a nice house, and what many would consider a nice neighborhood. It's just whatever happened across the street they didn't like, and well, somebody sent a message that morning.
Yeah, it's probably just one of those scenarios where somebody wanted to make sure their property value stayed in check, and
That's probably what it
you know
was.
didn't get the taxes too high, and their kids could buy a house down the street eventually. Just set the tone
Yeah,
for the hood.
yeah.
Well, I'm grateful for your time today, and the fact that you're still standing here with the same amount of holes that you were born with, given everything that it sounds like you've been through. Do you have any, just to make the audience feel a little bit better? You do see normal stuff too, right? Like you've got your everyday run of the mill happy homeowner type stuff too,
Oh
right?
yeah, oh yeah. First time buyers, the empty nesters, people downsizing. Yeah, we deal with all that. Those are just the stories I just shared, and I've got a whole list of those. But those are the one-off deals. I mean, those are not happening every time. I mean, over the last 10 plus years, we've been in 4 or 5 situations like that. But no, I mean, the normal process, yes, we deal with that a whole lot more than those situations. Those are all one-offs, and that's why you can't let your guard down. You always have to be aware, because you know you get in that rhythm of thinking everything's going to be the same and all good, and then all of a sudden you end up clearing a house with a sheriff one day, and so there's a lot to it. I have
Yeah,
done that too, by the way.
I've never cleared a house.
I have.
You got what?
I said I have done that too, by the way. Me and a sheriff cleared a house one time, guns drawn.
Well, are you sure you're in the right career? It sounds like maybe you should have been a cop or something,
You
given
know,
how often you
growing
find
up,
yourself
real
in these
estate was never on
scenarios.
the radar. It was always, think about law enforcement, whatever. And um, thankfully, I get to do it all kind of now. Now, I don't enjoy it. Don't enjoy being put in those situations either. But you just have to be aware. That's the main thing. Stay safe out there.
Well, the good news is if you need a real estate agent or a bodyguard, Patrick can double as both, and you can feel nice and safe. Patrick, it's been awesome sharing some time with you and some stories. Glad to know that you kind of have some normal stuff going on in addition to all of your Walker Texas Ranger crap that's happened in your career. We have a tradition on our show that every guest is to ask a question of the following guest. So if you could ask the next guest anything in the world, what question would that be?
Let's see. I guess, okay, here's one. Knowing what you know about the everyday real estate life, if you had to start over again and do everything, would you do it again, or would you change it? Or would you choose a completely different path? Because I know, like, with a lot of people we talk to, I mean, most of the things, like everything I've just shared with you guys, um, none of that was ever taught during real estate school or anything. So there's a lot of things that we never knew. So if you had to do it all over again, would you, or would you change and go a different route?
That's a deep one right there. That's going to be fun. Come back next week to see what other train wreck stories we've got for you.